Welcome to the software vulnerability course. Um, this week we'll be talking about the broken access control, which is one of the category in OWASP. And under that broken access control, there are multiple software vulnerabilities: traversal, indirect object reference (IDOR), and then there are other vulnerabilities. So today we are going to talk about the directory traversal. Directory traversal. Yes, let's get to it. Now, uh, this is for me. Slash. Okay, so slash, as in, first of all, we need to understand what is slash. So, if we want to understand directory traversal, we need to understand what is slash. So, okay, and for now on, I will say directory traversal to DT. Okay, to understand DT, we need to understand what is slash. So, slash is something which points to the parent directory. So, it's like a back button in the browser. For example, from the base page from Google, you search something and then you go to jump to another website, and to jump to another website, if you click on back button, you go to the previous page, and then to previous page, and finally to the base page from where you started everything. If you look at the table, it says slash var slash www slash html dot slash. So that equivalent to means that you go up one folder up, which is that you will come to slash var slash www. If you have two slash, that means you will go back you will go back two folders back, and that will you come to slash var. So if you have three slash var slash www slash html, you will come to slash. So if you are on Unix, Linux, or Mac operating system, you can just open the terminal now and try to do cd, and wherever you parent directory, just type cd slash, and you will be come back one folder. And also, like, for example, if you want you let's say this is slash var slash www slash html dot slash three dot, and then some other password, and then some file which is etc password, and then you point to that specific file. Now, even in the browser, once you reach to base page, there is nowhere you can go back, right? So that means if we have, let's say there were three folders, and then there were three dot slashes, so it comes to the base directory, which is slash. But if you have multiple slash encodings, what will happen, that they will ignore all of them, and it will just to the slash. There is nowhere to go back. It's like click on go back button, you will not go anywhere in the browser. The same way, if you change the directory command, there is in a Linux system. So if you type cd and then tons of slash, once it reaches to base page, there is nowhere it can go. And the same way, once it reaches to the base directory, it will ignore other slashes, and it will just start going to that specific file which we have. Like here, we'll just go to etc password. Now, what is encoding? So encoding is just let's say the another representation of the dot character. So sometimes why we use it, because in the URL sometimes we have some special characters, right? And sometimes we have those special character in the data as well. So those special character will not has some special meanings, but when we encode them, the URL or I mean our browsers, they have this way to talking to the server, so they ignore those ones who are in once they will be encoded. They only consider which are not encoded, which are not encoded in any way. So that's why we encode. So how we encode any we it will be a percentage followed by the hexadecimal representation of the ASCII value of the replace character. So here the character dot is represented by ASCII value 46, and then the encoding is percentage 2e. I mean, just do the, I'd say, binary to hexadecimal, or you will see that is percentage 2e. And then we have a forward slash, which is 47. Its encoding is percentage 2f, and then we have percentage, which is ASCII value is 37, and encoding is percentage 25. So again, in the table, if we are writing slash var slash www slash html, it can also be written as slash var www slash html dot now the another dot I will first dot I'm leaving it as it is, but the second dot I'm encoding it into the percentage to e, and then the forward slash is encoded in percentage to f. In the below case, I'm encoding everything which is dotted slash, so I'm saying dot will be percentage to e, and then we have another dot percentage to e, and then we have percentage to f. So that was the URL encoding. Now there is another set which is called UTF encoding. I will not be going into it, but then there is these things can also be presented by the UTF-8 encoding. So we have for dot we have three different versions, for forward slash we have three different versions, and then we have backslash. Double encoding. So double encoding is just encoded twice. So for example, in the last you have seen that I have encoding I have left the first dot and then encoded the second dot, which is percentage to e, and then percentage to f. What you're going to do next, you're going to encode it again. So that means what I'm doing here in this specific case, I'm leaving the first dot, but I'm coding this percentage again. So again, we'll try to encode the reserve characters here. So percentage will become percentage 25. Again, another percentage will become percentage 25. Again, in the second case in which we are encoding everything, the whole dot slash, we are encoding only the percentage. So you can see the percentage is replaced by percentage 25, percentage 25, percentage 25. So here you will be wondering why only percentage. I believe the example that I picked, this one, we are only trying to encode the reserve characters. So dot slash, they both are kind of, so we encode it, and then further we have percentage, we encode it again. But you can also encode 2 and e as well, 2e, all those things. So what is directory traversal? So whenever we interact with the server, it do two things. Either it will give you some access to some file which is on their server, right? For example, maybe there's a social media profile, I have uploaded my profile picture, and whenever I access the server, they will give me a link by which I can access that specific file. Or they will run some code, and whatever the code output that code will generate, it will return that. Now ideally, let's say there is a folder which is called slash var slash images, and that is the folder which is there on the server, and the whole purpose of that server is to serve files from that specific folder, images file, and not any other file which is out of scope. So there are lots of other files, some important files, some secret files, any files that are out of scope. Ideally, server should not serve any other file which is not in scope. But the third point is, attacker can manipulate the input in such a way that it can access or replace those files which are not in scope. So for example, if I do not have access to other files, right, the only thing is that I want to see is my profile picture, but there is a way that you can change the path. An attacker can change the path in such a way that it can access those files, and that is DT, that is directory traversal. So for example, how you access those files, for example, there is a two URL I have, http://input website /var /images / the file name. Or in another case, we can pass as a query parameter like a question mark file name is equal to path. Now ideally, we think that we think that there are no hackers, or say user will only input a legitimate file name. So here there's a typo, but yeah, what as I call it a developer mindset, that when we develop a code, would we think that, okay, we think only the input that's supposed to go. We say, okay, if the profile has profile1.jpg profile, or what a profile underscore id.jpg, we say that, okay, this is what the user will input. So, but that's not the case. There are people out there trying every input possible. So to this path in which you are passing /var /images / the file name, here they can change the path in such a way that they can access those files. For example, I just showed you that how you can access the files, right? So for example, johndoe underscore profile.png, what if I give some .. and try to give a path to the, let's say, some of the important file that on our system, which is one of the file is etc password. So they can manipulate the file name in such a way that it can get access to the etc password file. So they can add 10 dot dot slash so that they can eventually go to the base directory and then access to that etc password file. So that way they can access that file. Now, now we'll also we're going to talk about the top reasons, and in top reasons we are looking one layer more further into the depth, that why it occurs, what's happening in the code. So I have picked up few examples from the GitHub repositories, the open source projects. I have picked it from. Lots of these projects has like stars, 1,000 stars people are using in their companies or whatnot. So I have looked into their issues, and at there are times they have opened GitHub tickets in which they are talking about the directory traversal issue that they are facing and how they are fixing it. So I have looked at the top of the reasons. Like I have gone through a lot of like lots of GitHub issues uh, of directory traversal, just to try to see analyze it. What's the top reasons? First is completely ignoring security. As people, let's say if someone is writing code and they're doing the file handling, so they are not even considering the security side of that, whatever the code they're writing. So for example, these two snapshot, one on the left and another one on right, they both have picked from the GitHub repositories of projects, and they have opened a ticket for the DTA. So first one, like they are receiving a path, and then they just opening that file for them. That's it. So again, whatever the input that user is giving them, they just opening that specific file. So obviously, so what we think that they will pass only a file names, but here I can pass dot dot slash dot dot slash dot dot slash lots of dot slash, so that I can get out of, let's say maybe this, for example, this code specific code is runs in let's say eight level deep, then I can add dot slashes and then the file name that I actually want to access. The second snapshot that is on the right side also doing the same thing. The red is the code which is earlier there, that there were also whatever the user was input, they were just opening that, but then they change it with the clean. The one on left side, I'm not sure they have fixed it, but on the right side, this is from the change commit, that what they did, they try to create a function which is called clean file name, and whenever the user input comes, they try to clean that input. They were cleaning all the dot slashes. Second, there is another project, Larval File Manager on GitHub, and they are also just ignore the green part. If you see, they were iterating on the file names, and then they just deleting the file names. So again, there is no consideration for the security. So it's like whenever there's a file handling, you need to wear that hacker hat. That's all it is. So what they did, they go to the specific disks which was configured to, let's say there are files. This specific code deletes some files, but this specific code deletes a file from this specific folder. So what they have added, that they try to see whether those file which they are going to delete, whether those file exist in that folder or not. So that is one of the, I'd say, one of the prevention technique that you can use. I mean, whenever there's a file name coming, and for example, this code has so that's the thing about, you know what, I will maybe talk about further, because I don't want to off track the go off track. So again, what they did, they go checking whether this specific code, if it about to delete those files, whether these files are there in that specific folder or not. Second, I think is operating system confusion. Operating system confusion is what? For example, so in Linux system, Unix system, they consider forward slash, but then there is a Windows system who uses backward slashes, right? So that means it could be possible that you have tested every input possible, but but not considered the window operating system. In that case, if attacker change input in such a way, let's say if someone has Windows servers and they have obviously installed this vulnerable software, then attacker can change the path in using the backward slashes or its encoding, which is percentage C. So in this snapshot that I are you looking at, I have again picked it from the GitHub. But there is also one another reason which is coming, that it has also a library confusion. So first of all, the reason that the whatever the code we have written, it did not consider Windows platform. First point. Second point, for that, how they did it, that they used, there are function called name clean in a Go. There are two classes, path and file path. That same method exists in both classes. So when you called path.clean, it clear dot slash whatever, it basically clean if it only keeps the file name, but it clear other values dot slash. But it does not consider the window delimiter, which is backward slash. So the fix to this one is to change, uh, to keep on calling the clean method, but not from the path, but from the file path class. So that was, I'd say that is like also a library confusion as well. Okay, we did not consider Windows, but then there's another thing, that we also did not understand the library that we are using. So that's one thing. Another thing, now here, which is they did it whatever they did, which is good. Earlier they were just using file. This is again another project which were again not considering file, and then they added the fix, which is normalize the path and to check that starts with. I just only see and there are talks about it as well, that normalization is good. Normalization is something that we try to get a unique path. It will remove all the dot slashes or whatever. It will give you the path. It will remove all the dot. It will basically evaluate the path, and it will give you the path which is free of dot slash. So basically, let's say if you have, like we have seen, slash var slash html slash images word if there are three dot slashes, and if you try to normalize the path, it will give you slash. So what they did, they are trying to do is that whether it starts with or not. So first they normalize the user input, and then they say check again. They see dot starts with, whether this path starts with the actual directory or not. So for example, if you want to serve from slash var slash images, right, and you normalize the path, and then you say no, whatever the input we get after normalization, we'll check whether that starts with the dot slash var slash images or not. But here you have to add another slash, because if, let's say, if you only add slash, whether it starts with slash var slash images, and you did not end with the slash, what will happen, that if there is any other folder which is, let's say, slash var slash images something, then obviously that also matches with the slash var slash images, so it has to be ended with the slash. So that's also one of the prevention technique that we'll be talking about after that. We normalize the path, and then we check whether it's the same path, which it's whether it's the same path to which our code has access to or not. The another obviously not considering all the encoding. So some that is one of the, like Apache HTTP directory traversal has this issue, that they did not consider all the encodings, and finally so the issue was that you can pass dot and then percentage to e, and that was one of the hack, and then you can get into it. So that was the one of the vulnerability in the HTTP directory traversal. So again, not considering, that's why I say that it's a better to use some kind of library rather than doing the string operations, because we'll come to that later. Library misunderstanding, that's just one, again one of the snapshot that I have picked, that here, what was the issue? Yeah, so basically they were using join, and so basically join is joining the self directory and the file name. But if the second argument, but let's say if someone did not understand this library, what will happen, that if the second argument is a absolute path, then the first will be ignored. So that's the happening in this case, that For example, we are attaching, for example, let's say slash var slash images, and then what we are expecting is a simple file name, right? But then os.path.join will basically discard the first parameter if the second one is absolute path. So in case, what user can do, user can just pass a absolute path, let's say c, let's say windows c colon slash whatever the absolute path, and then in that case the first will be ignored. So that again is a misunderstanding of the library. This one is basically, uh, I have picked. This was the issue in the GitLab first of all, and they have, obviously they created a new functionality in which you can upload some kind of file, but then user can manipulate a path in such a way that, as you can see here, percentage 2e percentage 2f, to up to specify a path, so that it can, again using the dt, they can change the path in such a way that they can replace any file. So you just need to check that sorry. So they have added the regex, which was looking for the slashes, whether the slash is there in the file path or not. So let's say you were giving the path, and when you changing a path in such a way that you add dot slashes, and then you can upload it somewhere else. Let's say you can change the keys in dot ssh folder, or some replace some important file on the system. So the software was looking for the slashes, but there were no slash in the file because they did the encoding. So this specific issue is not considering all the encoding, first point. So what they did, they changed the regex, that they changed the regex in such a way that it should only has alphanumerical character. But then the same hacker who coined, basically it's a white hat hacker, so they just they do the bounty programs, they find issues in the program and then get paid. So first time, the someone some guy reported the issue, and then which was obviously they were considering only, they were only looking for slashes, but if you encode the path there is no slashes, right? Because the percentage has been changed to percentage 2f. So then they have changed the regex, to uh, this symbol, which is I guess cap, and then alphanumeric character and the dollar. So they say, okay, we are now we are looking, see if there should be only abcd dot or nothing else, right? So if you're passing slash, that will also covered. If you're passing percentage, that will also be covered. All these things will be covered. But then the same guy reported another issue, that the regex that you just added, it only checks in the first line. So if someone add a new line, so here someone added a name and then a new line, and then all those things which were which were ideally should not be yeah, past the regex, but because they are in the second line, they passed it. So that's why they have to change uh, the the regex pattern, so that it can do the full match rather than only first line. So that was the issue in the regex pattern, that the cap and dollar, however this one is like vulnerable to multi-line attacks, as as cap dollar only checks first line. So that is the issue. So go and check that what is the in the ruby, that what is the first line, if regex, or the full string regex. So that's the thing. Anyways, when we talk about the prevention technique, one of the first topic is this: whatever the input it gives, it change into normalized path. But here the advice that I was so saying, oh, I will talk about later. So I guess later has come finally. So first advice is to change it to the normalize the path canonical form. You will see in your libraries. Why I'm asking you to consider those libraries? Because there are people who have invested so much time understanding this thing, and if we go into the string manipulation, I have seen lots of cases on GitHub when we try to consider all the cases through, because there could be cases someone has triple decoded and then you decode it once and then check whether there is a dot slash or not, or whatever, or all these things. It's hard to manage when it comes to string manipulation, so it's always better to use libraries that exist. So yeah, so that is like canonical form, normalization path. So whatever the language you are using, for example in Java there's a path class which has the normalization, right? And then like we just see in the Go library, there's a class called file path which has a clean. So I believe same way you'll be able to find it. So that is means whenever the user input, we try to change into the canonical path. Second thing, don't trust. That is like, obviously when we're writing a code, and then first, that is like root cause of everything when we trust a user input. Because again, we are there are people out there trying every input possible. So that is like, that should be your that should be your first layer of security, I think, before it reaches here somewhere in depth. Let's say here you are handling file handling, let's say from here input is coming, that's your first defense. That's why a lot of people has all this WAF, I forgot the uh, wire for something, some software is out there on their upper layer which try to filter if there is any malicious attribute, but even people have find the ways to um, hack those as well. But that is the thing, we have to consider some possibilities. So that is the thing, never trust user input. Whenever user input's coming in any way, even if it's not file handling, you have to make sure what is it that you are expecting from the user, and nothing else should come in that. Second, yeah, don't even trust your own application. For example, this application is you're running, and it is running with some kind of root level access. So if there is a vulnerability and code, then that means that vulnerability, because of its root level access, it also get this some kind of privilege as well. So if it has minimal access, it will cause less as destruction, I think so, because it will not able to access those file which is out of scope, right? Even if there is a vulnerability, even a hacker has changed a path in some way, but because this application has a minimal access, it will not be able to access those files. So yeah, so that was like the prevention technique. Um Obviously there is a testing kit from the OWASP, so I would also add the link for that. Try that. And then there is a tool which generate different paths. So first you have all these defenses in which you like trying to get the anomalous path, access level, and all this thing. But then you can also read the testing technique. This the whole the whole idea of this tutorial is to give that mindset that there are hackers, and don't trust user input. What is directory traversal? um, the I have covered some of the prevention technique, but there is a possibility that something else can come up, right? So it's important to have a full understanding of the issue. I will add those links in which you can go. And then testing, there is a tools which can generate different paths. I'm not sure which exactly in the name, but I will add to this video that you can try, and then test your once your software is ready. With this tool you can attack your software and see whether if it's failing or not. Hack, this is just one of the hack. Let's say I was reading like whenever the file name they add, this is for more like from hacker perspective, that if we don't know what's the depth in that, how many dot slashes you should add, that then you should add, let's say 10 9, because like I said, that eventually once it reaches to base it will all discard all the other dot slashes. So sometimes let's say the folder is in, let's say 8 level deep, then you have to add 8 dot slashes and then finally slash etc password. So you can always add 8 to 10 and then see whether you can able to access the file or not. Second, yeah, this slide I've added because when I was trying testing the DT, what's happening that whenever I add a URL in the when I was testing through the browser, what's happening that browser also try to normalize your URL. So if it's a dot slash, it will just normalize it. So yeah, so yeah, if you're trying to attack your system, use terminal rather than the browser, because let's say if you are using dot slash, they just normalize it. And yeah, so yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching. uh, in this section, in the broken access control, we have covered directory traversal, but in another video, hopefully next week, hopefully we will be covering the other topics from the broken access control. Thank you so much.